Energized show, up the Irish.
Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, introduce the guest, man.
Okay, today we have the future Cage Warriors featherweight champion of the world. It's Mr. Paul Hughes. Paul, how are things?
Yep, that's good, mate. Good. Always a fantastic intro on this show. So yeah, feeling good, mate.
Paul, this is
Right
a very long time coming. You finally get to fight for that Cage Warriors belt, but this is a bit different because you're actually fighting for, I suppose, what's an interim belt. But I think the fight you were almost looking for was always the Charrier fight. So which is actually bigger for you, to fight for the belt or to fight Charrier and then prove that you're the better man?
I mean, of course, the belt's the number one thing, but in my opinion, this is the real belt. Do you know what I mean? I've already battered Jordan. When I beat him in December, like I should have been fighting Charrier next. So to me, this is just the exact same thing, except 6 months on. So as I said, just talking to you just before this, all these wee things are coming together, and yeah, it's perfect, mate. This is the belt, and it's exactly the fight that I wanted. So after this, the division will be cleared out.
Paul, do you think in recent times these Cage Warrior belts are surrounding you? You know, obviously Joe brought home his belt. You cornered Ian Gary out of the blue over at the last Cage Warriors, and he won his belt. Like, all these belts are like just forming around you. Do you just think that that's a sign that this is now your time?
Yeah, I mean, like 100%, mate. I guess it's a bit of a solidification, like that I always knew that we were going to be here. The likes of Joe himself and of course Ian. I seen that in him the day I met him as well, mindset wise. But I mean, even if these Vietnam belts didn't happen a few months ago with the lads, it wouldn't make a difference to me. I knew where I was going, and as I say, we're gonna be here very soon.
Life's all about timing, and then like even the way it was going all around Ireland, yourself and Ian, like who was going to get into UC first, and then also you being in his corner, helping him coach to become the world champion, which was unbelievable stuff, Ross, wasn't it? Like, what a night. But like, Paul, this is definitely coming your way now as well. Paul Hughes versus Morgan Charrier is not to be missed on Cage Warriors 128, Friday, October the 1st. Paul, like, we're really excited for you to get in there. Obviously, when you came off the loss against Vucinic, like myself and Ross, we weren't too sure. It was very, very close, but obviously we're more biased towards yourself, so we were backing you.
Mhm.
But like now this upcoming title fight, this is one that is like not to be missed for you.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, I definitely do not plan on this one going to the judges. I mean, I learned that from the Vucinic fight, and I think that the fact that there is 5 rounds, it gives me a lot more time to work, and it gives me time to go for that finish. And I think to be honest, I'm built for 5 rounds, and I'm going to show it here in this world title fight. I think I'm only going getting, especially looking at the Hendon fight. I think I was only getting going in the third. You seen when I almost finished him at the end of the third, like straight away when the bell went, hands were up. I wasn't even tired, mate. Honest, and that's not a lie. I was just ready to go. Once I had got that top position, was landing them strikes on him. I mean, it was only a matter before that ended. If that had went into a 4th round, it was all over for him. And the same thing is gonna happen to Morgan here. I'm gonna get him tired, and that's gonna be it.
One thing I do want to bring up, actually, speaking of previous fights, did you think Charrier actually won the last fight against Jordan Vucinic? Because there was a lot of people online who did. There was a lot of people thought Jordan won. What was your take on the fight?
I mean, watching it live, I thought that Jordan won. I don't know. I'm probably a little bit biased towards him as well because I am a fan of his. But I think, I mean, just even when I watched it live, it wasn't like completely, I wasn't scoring rounds per se, but just the sort of the vibe of the fight, it just looked like Jordan was the one there to win. Do you know what I mean? That he was going for the win, mate, and Morgan wasn't. Morgan was trying to land a few shots and then hold him against the cage and stall the rest of the round out. And I don't think Morgan took him down, but as soon as he took him down, Jordan was back up. So in today's day and age in MMA, that doesn't score too well if you're just taken down without strikes. Whereas I think Jordan was the one that was going for the finishes and was the one pushing at the pace, especially in the last round. So yeah, I give it to Jordan. I've watched it back a few times, of course. I mean, I of course can see how it can go either way.
Yeah.
Morgan did land good damage on the feet, but it was maybe only 20, 30 seconds per round that he was actively working. The rest of the time, in my opinion, he was just stalling almost.
And another thing that I want to touch on is something that you've added to your arsenal. You've signed with the juggernaut that is Paradigm. How did that come about, and what is the difference you've seen since they come on board of your career?
So that came about. I mean, obviously, I know Paradigm have been following for years since, of course, McGregor, the top dog. But I actually met Tim Simpson in Bahrain there at the start of the year, I think in March. I met him there. He was over. He flew over just to basically support Makayev, who was of course one of his fighters. And I remember seeing him. He was just sort of flying everywhere, and I just remember seeing him going all around the world supporting his fighters. And I was like, that's I like to see that. Do you know what I mean? He's not sitting in in a fancy house, friggin' saying calling the shots. He's out getting in the trenches. And I actually met him there, which was funny, and we exchanged I think just Instagram or whatever at the time, and just kept in contact since. And yeah.
For Ross, for people that haven't seen Paul fight before, obviously we know Paul signed with Paradigm. That's a huge move for himself because we know what's coming with the Paul Hughes train. For people that haven't seen Paul fight before, like what do they have in store for them?
I just think Paul is extraordinarily well-rounded. You know what I mean? He's got knockout power on the feet. His grappling is excellent. The pressure and the pace he pushes is absolutely exceptional. And he is destined to go to the UFC. I think it's, as a friend of ours might say, it is inevitable that it does happen. And I'm really excited to see it. Like, I'm not surprised he got signed by Paradigm. I think it's a great move for both. They have such good contacts. And I must say, one thing that I thought was so cool is the poster that Paradigm did. I actually was like, that's actually better than the Cage Warriors poster. It was an absolute slick graphic. And I just think it lines up well. I think, you know, from knowing Paul that bit, hopefully he's still there, but he's a popular man. The calls are still coming in from. But from knowing Paul, the way we do, I just think the way you vision stuff sometimes, Paul, you just bring it the whole way through. So I think he's seen this happen. He's envisioned it. He's dreamt it. He's believed it, and now he's going to live it.
So, Paul, you are fully expecting to become the champ on October 1st. What do you expect to do after? Do you think you'll go and defend the belt, or do you have your eyes on a bigger prize?
I mean, of course, I've got my eyes in the UFC. That's where I'm going. Of course, that's where I'm going to be. But at the end of the day, I mean, I got a very good chance again. I think even if the offer was there from the UFC, I think I would probably turn it down for that one more fight, to be completely honest. I mean, it's all right me saying that now, but if I get the email with the UFC contract, it may be different. But I guess I'll just have to see how I'm feeling at the time. But right now, it's 100% I'm fighting Vucenic after.
And how many fights do you have left on your Cage Warriors deal?
I actually just signed a new deal, so unlimited. As many as I need to get to the UFC.
I absolutely love that. And do you actually think that at the moment Cage Warriors is the best feeder promotion into the UFC, especially if you judge on, what was it, 2 weekends ago's card with the big Cage Warriors showing with Paddy Pimblett on, with Tom Aspinall, with Molly McCann? Do you just think Cage Warriors is the ultimate feeder into that UFC?
I mean, absolutely. Of course, it's the best in Europe. I mean, it's unquestionable.
Yeah, without a doubt
there.
as well.
I mean, absolutely one of the best in the world for consistency. I know the likes of Ariel Helwani was sort of not going against Cage Warriors a bit, but he had a little bit of stick against the guys that coming in for Cage Warriors hadn't got a win in quite a while. He was tweeting about it. I mean, that's not a true reflection, as you say. Like, I think
he was just trying to give me and
100%.
Pete a hard time, Paul.
That's what it was. Close personal friend. Yeah, just a bit of banter. But yeah, no, Cage Warriors best, mate. Like, absolutely, and not only for that. I mean, I'm gonna have the opportunity here to win a very prestigious world title outside of the UFC. So that gives me 5-round experience. Whether I get one fight or two fights doing that, that is invaluable experience. And of course, obviously, the pressure and everything that comes around that, it's absolutely a perfect stepping stone to bigger things.
Yeah, and also being featured in UFC Fight Pass as well. That's brilliant as well. The exposure is brilliant on that platform as well.
Exactly, mate. That can be watched all over the world, and people are watching it from all over the world. I think it's broadcasted to many millions of homes. I don't know the numbers, but that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Do you think the way Graham has the Trilogy series lined up that it really helps the fighters, that as soon as you finish your last card, you're on the next one? I know Joe said he loves the Trilogy series because he knows when his next fight is.
Yeah, I mean, pros and cons, mate. Pros and cons, of course. Yeah, I guess so. You know that you're going to get a fight almost because there's 3 shows. There's a lot more likelihood. Back in the day, it wasn't so likely. Do you know what I mean? If they were doing a show friggin' the back ass of nowhere in England, I mean, they probably aren't going to get the Irish guys to fight on it. But you may need a fight at that point. So, I mean, pros and cons. Of course, the likes of the guys fighting on a Thursday night, I just don't think it gets the same exposure. I know, speaking from my experience, my last fight was put on a Thursday night, and there was very, very little exposure, to be completely honest. So I think in some ways guys suffer, but in other ways it's also a good thing.
Yeah,
Well,
another thing as well that people should definitely look into, like, is something we've commended you and your team on a lot, is having your own, like, isn't it Roscoe at Roscoe Creative?
Mhm.
Yeah, who helps edit your videos and the build up to the fights, which is something that, like, every person on the roster should definitely take a look at. By first of all, the quality of it is unbelievable, but also, like, the consistency is there as well. Like, once you get into this, you don't stop, and, like, you've proven that the whole way. You're almost, like, I know you're obviously professional, but you're almost acting as if you were in the UFC before you've even put on the gloves yet.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, Roscoe is such an amazing asset to the team, amazing guy as well. Of course, the content coming up to these fights is amazing. It's fantastic to be able to share what I'm doing with people. It also obviously helps with brand and it helps with everything. But it's also made you think about 10 years time, looking back in that footage, how how valuable that will be. I mean, it's just amazing. So we're doing things right, mate. I mean, I've always known where I'm going. I've always had this mindset since I turned pro. I know I'm going to be the best in the world, and everything that I do in my career, training wise, media wise, brand wise, sponsorship wise, I want to be the best in the world, every single factor, and that's why I'm signing with people like Paradigm. And yeah, mate, I just want to be the best, and it's very simple.
Yeah.
and Paul, do you think if you go and win this fight, which I'm sure you fully expect to do you think that Fight Academy Ireland will have a chance to say that they are the best gym in the country? They'll have 2 world champions.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely, mate. I mean, Joe and myself this year, but we've also had Carl Murr back in, I think, 2, maybe 3 years ago. So that'll be the third world champion from FAI, all homegrown as well. So, I mean, we don't have guys flying in from other countries and coming and living here. It's just the boys from around the road, and that's it. So yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, I believe we are the best gym in the country now. Of course, I believe that, but I think in terms of just outside perspectives, I mean, I think it's undeniable.
Yeah, Ross, remember when Joe McColgan came home with the belt and then, like, everyone in the gym got him on the shoulders and started showing him there? That was one of the most brilliant videos I've ever seen, ever. But you can already tell Paul's dying for that. Going to sleep the night before, dying if you get thrown in the air.
Yeah,
Stop
but
it,
I
mate.
think
I mean, like that's just such a special thing, mate. I mean, that
Unreal.
is just incredible to be able. I mean, I said this with Niall that weekend where Joe and Ian won, but obviously Joe, my teammate, like that. I think that was one of the best weekends of my life. To be able to share that experience with him was one of the most special things, and I swear I was on a high for weeks from it. And to be there on the homecoming and just to see how happy and proud everybody is in the gym of Joe, it's a really special thing, and I just hope that I can live that very soon in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah.
Yeah.
thank God, everyone's lightweight or below, so you're easier to throw up in the air.
See Ross in the background. Ross, you
Oh,
see him in
sure.
the background showing the lads up.
Yeah, I'm sure Carl Moore didn't get that treatment. Oh, stop, Paul. I was only saying to Barry before he came on that I actually think now, obviously, you never know when the Trilogy series actually comes around. I think this, out of all the fights across the 3 cards, this is the main event. This is the one with the biggest backstory. This is the one with the biggest history. Do you feel like there's more eyes on your fight with Charrier than there is on any other fight across the cards?
Yeah, I think so, mate. And I'm not saying that in a way that like, oh, like, I think it just is the biggest fight. I think it's the biggest fight in Europe right now. It's obviously a very exciting matchup. You've got myself, who's a young, hot, hungry prospect who's been calling for this guy for over a year and a half. So you've got me against this guy who has got a big following, who's also a veteran of the sport. So it's also a step up for me as well, career wise. So like, I mean, it's so entertaining. Do you know what I mean? It's gonna be hectic whenever we get locked in the cage together. But yeah, it's just so exciting. The excitement has been driving me as well. yeah, I think of course there's other big fights too, but I do believe this is the biggest one for sure, highest stakes.
Yeah. And Ross, if this is people's first time checking in to the upcoming Cage Warriors Trilogy event, what do they actually have in store?
Cage Warriors Trilogy is actually my favorite form of mixed martial arts. I say this to Barry, like UFC can put on all the Whopper cards they want, but when you have 3 nights of world-class mixed martial arts in a row, it's a fight fan's dream. It really,
All in
really
UFC
is.
Fight Pass?
All on UFC Fight Pass. You get to see Ireland and the UK's next wave of talent do their thing live on UFC Fight Pass. It is absolutely incredible. And you've seen such major stars come off the Cage Warriors circuit, and there's many more to come. I'm actually looking at the current crop of guys who are fighting for the titles in Cage Warriors at the moment, and I think they could be as big as any wave you've seen previous. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. And again, like, I think, yourself, Paul, Charrier, Vucenic, you could easily all be in the UFC right now. You're all that caliber, and I'm actually dying to see it. I'm excited to see someone that we followed their journey as well go and win that world title and make the whole way to the UFC. And there's no doubt that you will be able to do it, Paul.
100%, bro. 100%. I just wonder how much UFC Fight Pass are paying you, boys.
About that.
Who knows? Energized and Fight Pass, who knows? But Paul, we're gonna wrap things up.
Mate,
we're gonna wrap things up because you've like we all know you love reading books and everything. You need to get like into the zone. But what are people expecting from yourself versus Morgan Sherry on Cage Warriors 128 Friday, October 1st?
You're absolutely getting the finish 100%. I mean, I don't count out a first or second round KO. Do you know what I mean? Majority of my fights, what of it, 6 finishes out of 8 fights. So don't count out that early finish. But when you know when it gets to the 4th or 5th round, what's going to happen, you know that I'll be finishing them then, and I'll be taking them into the empty water. Sorry. So yeah, very exciting times, mate.
Are you going to call him boring this week?
You're damn right. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. I've got t-shirts
a
made.
year call them. Do you? Oh, I can't wait for this.
A year and a half, man. I'm gonna get it tattooed on me after.
Boring.
Born. Jabba, born.
This is definitely one fight is not to be missed. Paul, we always wish you the best of skill. Ross, anything else to say before we wrap things up?
No, guys, just if you have been watching this, make sure to head over to Paul Hughes on Instagram, give him a follow. Not only is he an absolute brilliant prospect to watch out for, he's also an absolute gent of a man and always has time for the lads. Yeah, so right. Also, if you want, make sure to give this video a like, share, subscribe to our channel, because that really helps us, and it actually helps us give the fighters a bigger platform as well when they do come on. And as always, stay energized.
Yeah, good time. Yeah. Let's go.
Energized, show up the Irish. Been sussing you guys a couple of times. I've seen a couple of clips. I think you done some interviews with Dylan Moran and that I saw. So keep going, keep up the good work, guys.